Good morning. I am PC Molitor Patel, known to all as Pi, the 16th letter of the Greek alphabet, which is also used in mathematics to represent the ratio of any circle's circumference to its diameter.
In mathematics, the number we call pi, used to calculate distance in a circle, is an irrational number that goes on forever. We typically shorten it to 3.14, or better yet, give it a single letter from the Greek alphabet, pi.
That's right. He's really doing this.
It is an infinite number represented in a single, simple symbol.
By the end of that day, I was Pi Patel, school legend.
Much like his name, Pi tells simple stories that may contain infinite meaning.
He said you had a story that would make me believe in God.
He would say that about a nice meal.
As a child, Pi Patel learned from the Hindu god Krishna, who was accused by the other children of eating dirt. Krishna denied this, of course, but his mother scolded him and accused him of lying. When Krishna opened his mouth to show her, the story says that within his mouth she saw the whole entire universe. We learn very early in the movie that our main character and narrator, Pi Patel,
That's quite a story.
tells fantastic stories that are obviously not true. For example, why his uncle has the body shape that he does.
You see, my uncle Francis was born with too much water in his lungs.
They say the doctor swung Francis around by the ankles to clear the water out. And that's what gave him the huge chest and skinny legs that made him such a great swimmer.
These anecdotes may sound like lies, like dirt, but if you look closer, they may reveal deeper meaning.
None of us knows God until someone introduces us.
The mouth is a motif that is repeated throughout the movie. Pi was named after a swimming pool, but not just any swimming pool, a pool that could cleanse your soul.
If you want your son to have a clean soul, you must take him one day to swim in the piscine Molitor.
His uncle teaches him how to swim, while referencing the mouth once again.
A mouthful of water will not harm you, but panic will.
A mouthful of water also leads Pi to learn about Christianity.
You must be thirsty. I brought you this.
Why would a god do that?
To quench Pi's thirst, the priest teaches how God, an infinite being, could lower himself to a single symbol, so to speak.
God made himself approachable to us, human, so we could understand him. We can't understand God in all his perfection, but we can understand God's Son.
Pi was born and raised in a zoo, a veritable Garden of Eden. He was given a lot of freedom, but was commanded by his father, the zookeeper, to stay away from the tiger.
It's for you.
The tiger was the forbidden fruit.
No! What are you thinking?
Tigers are very practical. They are not concerned with religions or the fantastic, only with their survival.
Animals do not think like we do. People who forget that get themselves killed.
Pi, a vegetarian, is the opposite of tigers.
When you look into his eyes, you are seeing your own emotions reflected back at you. Nothing else. That tiger is not your friend.
Pi also is the opposite of his father, who is not a vegetarian and not a religious man.
Some eat meat, some eat vegetable. Listen, instead of leaping from one religion to the next, why not start with reason? In a few hundred years, science has taken us farther in understanding the universe than the religion has in 10,000.
Pi is cast out of the garden when his parents decide to sell the zoo and move to Canada. But a storm sinks the ship along the way, and Pi ends up on a lifeboat in the middle of the ocean. Another major theme of the life of Pi is separation from God, or Tsimtsum. Tsimtsum, which happens to be the name of the ship that sinks, and is printed on the lifeboat, literally means reduction. A Tsimtsum is a reduction of the divine energy that creates worlds. Much like the irrational number pi, the primal Tsimtsum transforms an infinite circle into a measured line. Tsimtsum, then, is the way God makes space for us to have our own world. He hides his light from us so that we can make our own choices, but he remains immanently present within that hiddenness. Svi Freeman.
Why would a lotus flower hide in the forest?
God's presence may remain hidden, but much like a beautiful lotus flower can grow in the dirtiest waters, so too can we, being cast out of our gardens of Eden into the harsh realities of life, be allowed to experience enlightenment, self-regeneration, and rebirth. Each of us, at some point, is cast into a pool that can cleanse our souls. The name of the tiger, Richard Parker, holds some clues to the meaning of the movie. Richard means brave ruler. Parker means park keeper. So at first, he seems to represent Pi's father, the zookeeper.
Richard Parker was a tiger?
Yeah, he got his name through a clerical error. A hunter caught him drinking from a stream when he was a cub and named him Thirsty. When Thirsty got too big, the hunter sold him to our zoo, but the names got switched on the paperwork. The hunter was listed as Thirsty and the tiger was called Richard Parker.
So we learned that the tiger was originally named Thirsty, a name that we've heard before.
You must be thirsty.
A name that could also be applied to Pi
Here,
and his thirst for spiritual knowledge.
I brought you this.
You're the tiger.
The tiger represents the struggle Pi feels in growing up and becoming like his father. On the lifeboat, Pi must become the ruler and park keeper, and he must do things to survive that are abhorrent to him, that he is not ready to accept about himself. The tiger is a projection of the animal side of Pi, the side that is needed for survival, the part that is more reason than faith, and more carnivore than vegetarian.
I'm sorry.
Pi tries to appreciate resourceful and practical people like his father.
I was never able to thank my father for all I learned from him. To tell him without his lessons, I would never have survived.
And also like the ship's cook, who was depicted on the lifeboat as a hyena. The cook resorted to cannibalism for survival.
The cook was a disgusting man. Such a brute, that man. But he was resourceful. It was his idea to build the raft to catch fish. We would have died in those first few days without him.
We later learned that the cook killed Pi's mother, who was represented by an orangutan, and threw her to the sharks. The next day, Pi killed the cook.
He was such an evil man, but worse still, he brought the evil out in me.
Pi creates Richard Parker as a way to stay sane, separate, and explain away the events that have transpired.
Telling stories is highly recommended. Above all, don't lose hope.
The time spent on the lifeboat represents Pi's internal struggle and eventual coming to peace with himself.
It's time to settle this. If we're going to live together, we have to learn to communicate.
As Pi and Richard Parker are nearing death, their boat comes to a mysterious island. They eat and are saved through pools that are both life-giving by day and life-taking by night, even cannibalistic. The strange island is shaped like a person. It is symbolic of Pi, finding a balance of both sides of himself, the carnal and the spiritual, faith and reason.
We were both raised in a zoo by the same master. Now we've been orphaned, left to face our ultimate master together. Without Richard Parker, I would have died by now. My fear of him keeps me alert. Tending to his needs gives my life purpose.
When they reach the shores of Mexico, Richard Parker unceremoniously leaves Pi. Pi is quite upset after all that they've been through together. It is like giving up an addiction. You let it go, even while you miss it. You love it and hate it at the same time. The tiger was a fantasy, a symbol of something much larger and harder to grasp within himself. It helped him when he needed it, but now it was time to let it go. Pi may have eaten some dirt. He may have told some lies, but through those lies, through his stories,
None of us knows God until someone introduces us.
he has also taught us unique and profound truths, truths that we wouldn't have understood otherwise.
So which story do you prefer?
Spiritual truth is like a lotus flower. It represents purity, enlightenment, self-regeneration, and rebirth.
Faith is a house with many rooms.
But no room for doubt?
Oh, plenty, on every floor. Doubt is useful. It keeps faith a living thing. After all, you cannot know the strength of your faith until it's been tested.
But in order to find this truth and experience this transformation, you must be thirsty.
And so it goes with God.
And that is the moral of the story.